Hello.
Just in time to see Steve stretching over there. Well, let's see if anybody shows up today. Back in.
How's that go if they don't show up in the first 15 minutes? We get to cancel class.
I guess, or we can just come up with a topic that we want to discuss. I guess that's how it works.
Sure. Yeah.
But
Oh,
hey, I got
well,
that. I got that big dude put together over there. Klein
that,
come over.
yep.
Klein come over. We was working on getting it together. I got it together, and I have did one test burn with it, and it works. So
So that's so Sculpt Fun has like a ton of lasers under each line. That's the S30 Ultra, which is 600 by 600, right?
yes, sir. Yeah, it's
Did
it's
you,
big.
so have you tested the actual working area yet? Because I know on some of theirs in the past, they've put bigger modules in them and then you kind of shrink down. They're still advertising it as a 400 by 400, but you're getting like 375 by 375 in some cases. You happen to
No,
have test that yet?
no, I just got it put together. I set it at 600 by 600. I will tell you this: I set the return to location at 0 and 590, and it went to it. So,
Oh, well, that's good.
so it's at least 590 lengthwise. So, I'm gonna do a lot more testing with it this week. But it's been sitting over here for a few days, and I just got around to getting it put together. Why am I not seeing chat? What is up with this? Why is the chat not showing up on the screen?
It's working for me.
I don't know. We'll
Um,
see. Well,
yeah.
hello, Chris, everybody. Let's see who all's in here. My goodness, there was some texting going on before I got here.
A
I was
little,
I, I was
little
literally
pre-chatter.
yeah. Well, I had some work stuff going on, and Klein literally just left because I told him I was like, dude, I got to at least do one cut with this thing to make sure it works. Uh, he come over and I got a tutorial on how to put them together. Uh, what we get? Oh, you giving away early bird presents?
Um, I said something.
Uh,
Uh,
there you go.
uh,
There's your question there, CO2 guy.
why do they have a recommendation of 100% power when the recommended power is? I'm not 100% sure what we're asking here. Um, so,
I, yeah, I don't even know
one, one,
who he's talking about is recommending that.
yeah. So, I mean, that is a good point. As you're getting into the CO2 lasers, definitely as you go up in power, you get some cutting capacity, but your beam width gets bigger. And so there are some trade offs there. If you're doing a lot of engraving, you're going to lose some detail and such. Um, but, I don't know if this is pointing at, there's the whole don't run a CO2 over 100% or over 80%, so running at 100% would be bad. Again, that depends on how your CO2 is set up. If it's well balanced from the factory, like they've got a good power supply that's matched to the tube, and your controller is tuned to it so that it doesn't drive the milliamp rating above what it's rated at. Um, you can run it up to 100% at that point. What the fear is that a lot of kind of the cheaper, even like my original eBay CO2 laser, what they had was a 60-watt power supply. It was technically a 50-watt tube, but they were
Yeah,
claiming it as a 60-watt machine. If I would drive that at 100% power, I was overdriving that tube. So first off, making sure the components are balanced and that you're having a milliamp meter to monitor the rating compared to your tube is good. Yes, you may lose some lifespan at running it at the top power, especially if you're not, controlling the heat well. Um, but the converse to that is you're going to add extra hours running it at a lower power to do the same amount of cutting. So it's kind of a trade off. Do you want the power and the speed and the temperature or the time on the machine? So um, anyway, it's similar to diodes. Some of the earlier machines, they were kind of put together with cheap components that would sometimes overdrive the diodes, and that's why there's this whole oh, don't run them at 100%. Heat is going to kill either a diode or a CO2 laser. So you kind of have to have that balance of, are you getting higher heat and you're pushing up against that upper limit, which may drive down the lifespan of it, or are you running at a lower power and possibly doubling your runtime? Now you're racking up those hours on fewer jobs. So there's a happy medium somewhere in the middle, between running at 100% power and running it so slow that you double your time to do the same work. But
Yeah, well, I got to catch up on some on some
you
comments.
got caught up on your comments there.
Yeah, but yeah, Brian. Other than there may be some settings that you would have to play with, if you put your module in the center of your workspace and just use the move arrows to move it in small increments, I don't see that being a problem without having to like change a whole bunch of stuff. The output and everything should be the same. I know for a fact that the steppers are the same on the X and Y axis on the Acer because I took my P20 apart and put it back together, and I took the V35, I put it together and then took it back apart. So I've been staring at Acers several hours this week. So you should be able to, if you just want to make sure to see if the control board's the problem, you should be able to get away with doing that. But because there's some settings that could be not set up properly for that, I would put the module in the center of the workspace and just move it gradually. That way you don't have a rail collision. Because there may also be some directions you have to flip and all that, depending on how those steppers are placed in there. But that would definitely tell you whether the board was outputting or not if you hooked it to the other stepper. So,
Big Scooby, glad you got the package and glad you like it, and thanks for putting that order in. It's fun making that.
creative space, yeah, no thanks. I only use that for updates. I know they've tried to make it more like Lightburn, but it's not Lightburn. I don't. I like Lightburn. It does everything I need it to do, and so I stay away from that software except for updates. Oh, by the way, guys, got new shirt in. New shirt. Uh huh. Yeah. Uh huh. See? Yeah. 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 So
Where where's the kitty? I don't.
there's no
It's
kitty.
missing the
See,
kitty.
it matches the tumbler now. Now these are actually I had her make these for me. So, which I mean, other people can get them, but I selected the graphics and all that for this one. So, and oh yeah, what did Scooby? What did Scooby get? Everybody wants to know.
Um,
I'm guessing
he,
maybe some lenses.
no, actually. So this is something I've had on my Etsy store for a while, but there's just these little decorative signs that I make. Oop, there we go. And then normally they have like some jute twine here so that you can hang it on the wall. And so I've made a number of them for people, and I've got a variety of types of woods to select from. So
Yeah. Yeah, Brian. I wasn't, but look, Brian. Look, watch, bro. When you're drinking, the grain runs the right way on the shirt. When you're not drinking, it runs the other way. So there you go. I hope that helps your OCD. But no, I didn't ask for the grain to run either way. I gave her a check. But you missed it, Brian. Look, that fixes it, bro. But yeah, I had her make these. They're actually pretty comfortable. I was a little worried because I'd heard some horror stories about the fabric, but it's kind of like a dry fit. And after bush hogging and running a lawnmower for half a day today, I was glad to put something on that was really thin and breathe. So far so good.
so here's
Oh,
one about typical symptoms when a laser reaches its lifespan. It's going to be a little bit dependent on the type of laser you have. So if you're looking at a diode laser, you're going to notice that the same power settings are degrading. And after cleaning everything, your cover lens and such, it still is less. You may even be able to notice a difference in the kind of the like on a low power focus, you might be able to notice a difference on it. Um, with the CO2, you're going to have a few more signs. Similar case where the same power settings aren't running as well. You've cleaned your lens, you've cleaned your mirrors, things look okay. That your water temperature, if it's a water cooled CO2, is in check. Um, but there can be contaminants in the water. So if you get any sort of algae growth in there because you don't have a closed system, a lot of these kind of starter CO2s will just have you fill up like a bucket of water and have a pump in there. Well, that can let contaminants in there, and you can actually get algae and other things growing inside your tube. That can sometimes be cleared out, and that fixes the problem. But then over time, if it's been overdriven or just too many hours in your tube, the beam is going to go from kind of a pinkish purplish color to a white color, and that's just inside. That's the plasma inside the tube. You can't see the actual laser beam, but the plasma in the tube, as it's generating that beam, goes from kind of a purplish pink color down to a white color, and that's another sign that the tube is going bad. So, but generally, your biggest sign is that you've done all your maintenance, you've done your cleaning, and you're still losing power. Then there's something going on with it. If you have one of the newer diode lasers too, you might even notice that one of the diodes goes out, and you got to be careful doing this. But in a closed room, if you take your module out, put it on low power, and shine it across the wall about 6 feet, don't point it at anybody or anything, and have your glasses on. You can actually see the lines of each diode in there, and you might see that there's a gap, or so like if it's a 20 watt, you should have 4 lines. Maybe you only see 3. Well, now you have a bad diode. Again, do that at your own risk. Not really recommending it, but it's one way to do some testing on it. You got any thoughts on that as far as them going bad?
Well, if it's a diode, I I want to see. I want to see how many jobs you burn with it because I have run the stew out of my diodes and I have not EOL'd one yet as far as the laser module goes. Now I've went through some lenses. Uh, Matter of fact, I just had to change out the lens on the P20 while I had it out the other day because I gave it a good thorough cleaning, took the module apart and cleaned all the fan and everything, and went ahead and put a new lens on it. And it's still dropping quarter-inch plywood at 8 millimeters a second. So I mean, if you've ran a diode in the ground, you run either you have a really poor maintenance, in my opinion, or you just got a dud. I'm not saying there aren't some duds out there, but even these cheaper machines, if you keep them clean, they last forever. So,
Yeah.
but as far as the CO2s, yeah, I mean, tubes, like I said, and I've said it before, and people beat up on me. Uh, Tubes are kind of like the old vacuum tubes that used to be in televisions. It's a really old technology that works and works well, but just like the tubes in those TVs and CB radios and stuff that we used to have to swap out, their life is not what what you would like. But I figure it won't be long. They'll be moved on to something different.
Well, they've been around for a while, and I don't know. I mean, there are other technologies. The thing is, they're inexpensive,
Yeah,
and that's the benefit you get from the water cooled CO2 tubes. They're inexpensive,
yeah.
and they are a consumable. Technically, your diode module is a consumable too, if you run it enough. But yeah. So Big
Uh,
Scooby's asking, would Lightburn replace the need for CorelDRAW or Adobe Illustrator? What are your thoughts? You've used Adobe products, right?
I don't use Illustrator. I do all my
Okay.
designs. I do all my designs in Lightburn. I have Photoshop, and I do have some Adobe products, but mostly I just use it for thumbnails and stuff. I build everything in Lightburn now. I've even started making my CNC files in Lightburn, which turns out pretty awesome. By the way, I have learned how to make such as this in Lightburn and send it over to the CNC and set it up to burn. And so I made me a little bit holder for all my CNC bits and certain layers I exported as a SVG and sent them over to the CNC. And then once I CNC'd the block out, I brought it back into a laser and framed it out and did the text and everything after the fact. So I've actually got to where I'm designing for CNC now with Lightburn. I know they're supposedly going to come out with a Lightburn add-on for CNCs, and I can't wait. But until then, I'm just saving some SVGs.
So, yeah, here's the thing with moving from Illustrator or CorelDRAW to Lightburn. Um, there are a lot of duplicate functions in there, and a lot of people do design in Lightburn. Coming from someone who's done a lot of work in graphical programs or CAD, uh, I have a hard time breaking those habits. And so for me, while I know I can do it in Lightburn, my habits and my how I work is more fluid in CAD or Illustrator. Um, so that's the biggest thing for me using Lightburn to design. I stumble over, okay, I know what this tool is, I know how to do this layout in CAD. Translating that into Lightburn is frustrating when I know how to do it so simply in there. That being said, yes, most of the tools, as far as what you'll need for manipulating vectors and even doing some basic photo editing for your engraves, are in Lightburn, and you shouldn't need unless you're getting into some very advanced things, or like I say, you've just got some old habits that are really hard to break.
Yeah, now I use the Creative Cloud for background removal because it has a really easy to use background removal tool for photos. But that's really all I use uh, for any of my designs and stuff. But it's just because when with Adobe, you just put it in there and you tell it remove the background, and it does a really good job of getting that stuff out of there. And then I'll bring it over into Lightburn and set it up after that.
Yeah, see, for like images and just adding some text around it, things like that, I have no problem with Lightburn. But when it comes to actually building a three-dimensional object, and I need parts that need to interlock and such, I still can't break doing that in CAD, bringing it into 3D first, making sure it fits in that environment, and then flattening it out and just sending the DXF over to Lightburn. But yeah,
Well, once I figure out how to export from Fusion over into the CNC, I'll probably start doing it that way as things get more complex. But right now, I'm enjoying being able to do a because two dimensional. It's easy for me to do a two dimensional design, and then once I get it on the CNC, just add the depth for stuff like this. Now, if I was trying to make interchanging, interlocking parts, that'd be a whole other creature.
yeah, Chris has a good point. Lightburn uses the same graphics engine as Corel. It's just missing a few functions. And back before Lightburn was a thing, there were actually plugins for Corel to be able to control like Ruida lasers within. You basically use a print function from Corel, and then you set up your colors for different power settings and such. So that's kind of the historical growth of from having that kind of kludgy two-part thing in Corel into kind of a standalone project that can do it all. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you're used to Corel, Lightburn should be no problem to you. For me, it's just more of the CAD stuff going into doing design work in Lightburn. I find it just a little more difficult for me, and it's just how I tend to visualize and work through things. But
Well, a lot of that too depends on where you start. You
Mhm.
started in CAD software and went to Lightburn, so for you, it's just a little more natural. And a lot of the software selection is personal preference and depends on your background. But if you're brand new to all of it and you want a tool that can do a lot, it can't do everything, but can do a lot with lasers and such. I think Lightburn's a really good tool. Like I said, I've had good luck with it. And hello there, Susie from Central Illinois. Isn't that's up there close to you? Like not Canada close to you, but I mean it's north.
um, yeah, I mean, so let's see. I got friends that are in this quasi central Illinois, and it takes me about 7 hours,
Yeah.
7 to 8 hours to get there. So I mean, considering what it takes to drive across the U.S., yes, close. But
This has been a big a common question over the past I guess 6 months or so since they released that little hour, and I don't think me or Steve either one can speak to the little hour module, but My research tells me that if you're only planning on doing like small items, or either you got a lot of time on your hands, it will do metals, but it's not going to be anything like you're not going to want to get into the 2 watt IR module for like production of metal. That would be kind of like going back to a 2.5 watt diode laser. It would just be really, really slow. But if you just, like I said, for a novelty and just to do small jewelry and stuff like that, I think it would be okay. What do you think, Steve? I mean, I know we've asked this question 100 times.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, I can't speak explicitly to it because I haven't used it, but I think, I mean, the only benefit to it is it's fairly inexpensive compared. I think, what is it, like $500,
Yeah,
which, even their F1, which is more of their purpose fiber slash diode, that's 1800. Your little desktop fibers are usually 1200 on up. And then the new Atom stack, they've got that 20-watt pulsed fiber module, which would be nice as far as power, but that's 1400, and you'd probably have to have the Atom stack or IKEA machine to run that one. So, if you're wanting to get into just some smaller metal marking, it's plausibly worth it. But I don't know what how involved swapping that with a normal module, if it's more than just the wires uh, and drop it on your frame. That's not terrible, but if there's extra power cables and other things, that might get a little annoying if you're trying to swap back and forth between them.
yeah. 20 watt Acer for etching glass, stainless steel tumblers. Stand by. Well, I just happen to have a piece of frosted glass. This is like really, really thick glass, but I will say that of these settings to get a frosting, let's say, zero point 0.2 millimeter interval. I would say 100% power at 14 millimeters a second would probably get you a good frosting. But now I will tell you this: do your own testing. This is a really thick piece of glass that was made for like it's like tile. This stuff does not shatter like say wine glasses do. You're just gonna have to play with that. Typically, 100 millimeters a second on glass will kind of get you in the ballpark, but you're going to want to either raise your focus or be really careful about selecting your settings because you will shatter wine glasses with a laser. If you focus the machine perfectly and you run too much power too slow, it will cause little tiny fissures in the glass, which can result in it just basically falling apart in the chuck. I've had that happen. So glass is one of those things that there's a lot of variables. How hard is the glass? Whether it's tempered or there's a lot of variables. But always, I recommend a speed test. Just break down, buy extra blanks, do a speed test. Because there's like I said, there's too many variables for me to even get you really close. It's not glass is not as forgiving as wood because it breaks.
Yeah,
Tumblers,
heat's not your friend with it.
yeah, tumblers. I haven't. I see. What did I do the last tumbler? I got a test tumbler over here. I've got some videos where I did tumblers with the 20 watt. Uh, I'd have to look back and see what settings I ran on them then. Same situation with that. I do a test burn on batches of tumblers unless it's a one off. If it's a one off, then I just go for it. Uh, Depending on whether it's a Yeti or Ozark Trail or one of the ones I get off of Amazon, they all burn differently depending on the thickness of the stuff. So it's always best to do a test. But typically speaking, somewhere in the ballpark of 100 millimeters a second at 100% output will get will mark a tumbler. It may not be as shiny or it may not be as clear, depending on the coating. See,
So
settings are just crazy.
yeah. So he's also asking about how far to take the laser apart to get a really good cleaning on it. And I'm guessing most people are asking about like the module. Generally, the frame, as long as you can clean off, anywhere your rollers are, your rails, things like that, clean them off, and your belts. That's pretty good. As far as your module, I would recommend, if you can, take it off down to your cover lens. If you have to take that off, try to just make sure you don't get anything on your focus lens while you're cleaning that. Get that back on. But you may need to soak that a little bit to really clean it off or replace it. And then the rest of it, if you can get the fan out and really clean that off and then blow some compressed air, just make sure it's clean compressed air through there to get the bulk of the dust off. You should be pretty good at that point, unless you've really let it go a long time or you've run some really nasty material in there. Um, Beyond that, it really depends on the module, how easy they let you get at it. And, I wouldn't want to risk pulling it too far apart and upsetting some of the components and where they're sitting in there. As far as, you could throw off your focusing tools, or you could actually break some things at that point. But if you can at least get the fan out, make sure that's clean both sides, get some air through there. I think at that point you've done pretty good due diligence on cleaning out your module.
Yeah, with the Acer and Atom Stack machines, I can tell you there's four screws on the top. You take those four screws out, it releases the top cover plate. Then you just pull the hose loose, and directly under that little cover plate, the fan just sits in there, sandwiched between that cover plate and the chassis. And you can set it on the table and just take that top, lay it to the side, and just kind of move the fan out to the side. I do not recommend unplugging and plugging that fan a whole lot, because one, it gets hot and dry and gummy in there, and if you start trying to mess with that, you're liable to break the wires. But you can lay it sideways on the table, get it out of the way enough to where you can take a small detail brush and clean it. Compressed air works really well. If it's really gummed up inside the cooling fins, you can use a pipe cleaner. For those of you know what I'm talking about, you can buy packs of those things with various colors. But you can take one of those little pipe cleaners and reach in there and kind of, just gently clean the cooling fins that require it. But I typically just blow mine out. I don't go through that much trouble, because as long as as long as air can pass through there, I'm good. If it's a little dirty, I don't sweat that.
Um, so now you haven't
Oof.
you haven't you haven't had an IKEA machine, have you?
No, I've had the L2, which is very
Yeah, the
similar.
eight, sir. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I don't. I do tend to be a little cautious in whether I recommend or not on my videos. I try to make sure I get all the information out there so that you can kind of make your own decision. Um, what I would have you think about, I guess, is the features that the K1 24-watt IKEA have really is that powered Z-axis and autofocus feature. That does open up some options that you might want to consider, because a lot of the other features you can find in other lasers as well. And that one is becoming more prevalent in others. Um, the autofocus can be nice when it works. Um, the step down can be nice in certain areas. However, I don't think they're required. And in some cases, if they're giving you problems, and it's not exactly a quick process to do the autofocus. It takes time for it to go down, touch off, and come back up and set its focus. So it can actually slow things down um, when you need to use it. There are many times that I would much rather just have a quick focus lever, drop it down, lock it in place, and go, rather than waiting for this process to go. It's also another feature that can not function right, and when it doesn't function right, it can be very frustrating and can slow you down. Now you can ignore it, and you can still manually twist that down, but twisting that little uh, screw to lower the module, if it's up at the top, you're going to be sitting there spinning it for a while. That being said, it is a good laser. It does have a fair amount of power, but in that 24-watt range, you have a lot of options as well. So if you don't feel that the autofocus or the step down Z control is needed, and personally, I think with a changing your power and speed settings is probably going to get you more than being able to lower it down, because you only have a few millimeters to deal with in how far you can move it down to begin with. So they're nice to have those features, but they are not deal breakers for me. And quite the contrary is, if they don't work well, I don't want them. They're just going to get in the way.
Yeah, I've only found a couple of times where having that adjustable Z axis was beneficial. I've definitely, I'm like you, that sometimes the risk of those bells and whistles not working is more more of a risk than the benefit of having them. So it's
Yeah,
just all that personal preference.
it's
Let's put it this way. I had a choice between a I was going to replace my P20 because I've gotten into the 30 watt range and I can't stand that this is still a 20. So I was, up in the air about whether to get the 32 watt or the 30 watt L2 or just go with the old faithful V35. And I went with the V35 because it's simple. And this is my production machine. This is the one that makes my money every week. I don't want it going down. And so I've got the V35 sitting over there. And I ordered the extension rails for it because, to my surprise, the extension rails from the P20 will not fit the V35 because they added a pin to the power connector to the module. So I had to order a whole other set of extensions, which is good because now I have a backup machine that I can throw back in here if I do have a failure. Uh, I was actually also looked and found out that the controllers appear to be the exact same controller for the P20 and the V35 with some minor wiring changes. But simplicity sometimes is best, and Steve can tell you because when those little bells and whistles start malfunctioning, it will drive you nuts. Uh,
yeah, yeah. It's kind of like having a car with all the electronic features. They're wonderful until they stop working, and now you need an electrical engineer to fix them. you know?
yeah, Eric, I probably will have some coming up. It's fixing to be Christmas, and that's when I really lay into my CO2 because that's when I'm doing a lot of acrylic for ornaments and stuff like that. So you'll probably be seeing it soon because I'm working on trying to get some stuff together to put some Christmas ideas out there and do a video about it. So there'll probably be some clear acrylic getting cut here soon with it.
Yeah, and I've got some plans for mine and possibly even my other CO2 laser to do some videos. It's just uh, time crunch right now for me. August is kind of a is my torture month. I've got events going on with my model airplane club. The I work in higher ed, and so the semester startup at the end of the month. We're just, we're already pushing to get ready for that, and so I'm going to have kind of a busy window here, that I hope I can keep on track with some things. But yeah, with holidays, I mean, you go out to the stores right now, Halloween decorations are already out. Uh,
Oh
my
yeah.
wife and I made a quick trip to Michael's this morning, and I was trying to steal some ideas for things to work on. So yeah, there'll be some things coming out.
Uh, I don't see a reason why you couldn't if the I mean, as long as you're handy with a soldering gun, or I mean, I think they actually make those crimpable too, don't they?
Yeah, that should be a crimp on end. So possibly it would just be, if it's just the end is loose, you might just need to re-crimp it, or even you can gently squeeze down on there so that barrel end, depending on which end is loose. Um, if it's female end, you can kind of squeeze it in a little bit to hopefully make a better connection on it. So, but otherwise, yeah, if you can find the right connector and get a crimping tool, you could definitely make those cables. There's nothing too magic about it. So,
Yeah.
how about this one? Um, if you have a buddy with a table saw, that's going to be best. But if you don't and you want to use a circular saw, um, two things you can do. You can add tape down the line that you're going to cut, but that's going to add up for a while. But if you can get like a piece of foam to lay underneath it, and then get like a track saw going, that'll help. That'll help prevent the tear out on the bottom side. Um, and yeah, a lot of times blades aren't dull; they're just dirty. So clean them up. That'll help get a better cut. But definitely, you want to make sure you got a ripping blade in there instead of a cross cut or a hacking blade in there. So, but yeah, if you can, just lay down some foam underneath it, so that kind of acts as a spoil board, and that'll help prevent a lot of the tear out.
I'll tell you another thing too to watch for. Check your depth when you're cutting the plywood, and if you can cut instead of just cutting one sheet at a time, if like with it being an eighth of an inch, if you can stack 10 of them together and cut them, that'll help keep a lot of the rips from happening. But I run a really high tooth count blade, like Steve said, a ripping blade in my little DeWalt, and that's what I use to cut mine up, and it does a really good job. I don't have really bad tear outs or anything with the pieces that I do, which most of what I'm doing is quarter inch. But but I stack mine up. I usually cut 5 sheets at a time with a quarter inch, and you can see uh, smooth cuts, no tear outs. But that's a blade that is specifically made. Now, it doesn't do a real good job cutting 2x6s, but it does a really good job at cutting plywood and sheet goods. So, and I would tell you what the blade tooth count is, but it is war slap off. And I probably got another one around here somewhere, but I don't want to go dig it up.
Yeah, and they make some combination blades that generally do decent at both.
Let's see if I got one.
But
I may have another one.
yeah, Mark, I use like a 1 inch thick styrofoam for cutting down material like that when I need to. Works pretty well.
If you're cutting 1/8 inch, you could almost use a straight edge and a box cutter.
I
Just
guess.
saying.
I mean,
Hey,
that's
it
another way to
works.
prevent tear out. Even if you just score it with it first and then run your blade down it, that'll prevent tear out as well. So but that just takes extra time.
Yeah.
Um, Steve Ray's dealing with some mirror tiles, but the backing is white instead of black. I don't know. I mean, it's not going to interact very well with that. But you could play around with putting a coat of black paint on the back.
I
See if
mean,
that does it.
as long as there's something there. I mean, you may have to jack your power settings up, but this stuff that the piece that I showed you right here is white. So I mean, just as long as there's something to interact with the laser, you may have to turn the LPI or the power up to get the desired effect. But I think you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Because mirrors don't take a whole lot if you're just going for the frosted, mirror removal. Mirrors don't take a whole lot of power at all. Like I think I run like
I
20% power on those things.
Yeah. I mean, you're gonna have to test it and find out. I've had odd results with white things. Some things it doesn't seem to care. Others it
Yeah.
doesn't seem to do anything to it. So
Trying to catch up again. Oh, hello, Isaac from Sydney. My goodness, Chris, y'all got like a whole club going on over there. It's gonna be Chris is gonna have like a down under club going on. That's like that's 4 or 5 folks from Australia, and Chris still ain't sent me my kangaroo.
well, you got to send him his cable he needs.
Hey, I've got a bunch of stuff in my cart, so I can start trying to make some cables because I've got like all these different air assists and stuff that have these special cables. Kevin Riddle, Florence, Alabama. I know where that is. That's right up there, right near Tennessee line up that way.
Yeah.
A Fox Alien machine. No, I have not.
And no, the Lasermatic by Rolly, we've heard a lot of good things about them, but haven't had a chance to take a look at them. Um, but they seem to have a lot of the right bells and whistles on them. That people that have gotten them seem to enjoy them.
Yeah. Brent, a lot of the, and I'm like I said, I haven't messed with a whole lot of the more modern cables, but a lot of the cables basically, when you buy the connector, it just comes with a piece of plastic, and then you have the tips that crimp to the wire, and then basically you just shove the tip into the plastic until it locks in, and you're done. That's, I mean, most of the connectors you've dealt with, because you've probably made more cables with the RC stuff than I have in recent years. But I mean, it's still the technology really hasn't changed, has it?
No, the trick there is just having the right wire, having the right tools with the connectors. If you've got a good crimper and you've got, I get my biggest thing is getting quality wire. I actually try to make sure that you get this. Here's a little kit. This is, I think this is 18 gauge. Doesn't even say at the box. Great. Um, but getting a flexible silicone wire is really helpful because then when it's moving around in these machines, it's less likely to have problems down the road from kinks and breakage. So, but yeah, it just takes a little bit of practice doing the crimping, and depending on the connectors you have, some of them can be really frustrating getting the pins in until you learn the trick of each one. But there you go. When's the best time to start taking Christmas orders?
As soon as you can.
Yeah, I was gonna say as soon as someone wants to give them to you. I think more critically is figuring out when you need to cut them off to give yourself time to
Yeah, yeah.
get everything done.
I had to shut down 3 weeks before Christmas last year just to get caught up on my backlog, and that was with me working every afternoon after work.
Yeah.
Uh, so,
So
but yeah,
yeah, it's I generally retail and other things are at least 3 months ahead of whatever event is. So that's why you're seeing Halloween things right now, and that'll roll. They generally skip over Thanksgiving and go right to Christmas at that point. But yeah, you're doing your fall stuff now, and Christmas stuff's going to be definitely within the next month or so. A lot of people, I know a lot of people for that Lightburn conference in late October are complaining about the timing of it because end of October is a huge time for Christmas shows. So you kind of have to have your product and I mean, especially if you're doing shows, you better be making product now for it, so you're ready.
yeah. For doing Christmas ornaments, well, that depends on your medium. Certain acrylics you can use diodes. Clear, anything clear, you're going to have to go to a CO2. Uh, but yeah, I use wood, I use acrylic, and I mean, there's all kinds of materials that you can use. I mean, if you can find the little round slate blanks with the hole drilled in them, those are handy. But primarily, I do wood and I do acrylic, and sometimes I join the two. I mean, I may have a design that has acrylic and then has wood accents on it or whatever. But yeah, it just depends on what medium you have available. But I use both machines during Christmas time a lot because I'll do a lot of picture frames for, and I'll do a lot of you just buy basically cheap picture frames, and so like people will want Christmas 2023 or whatever etched on the glass so that they can put the picture of their family gathering in the frame, and then when they put the glass on there, it's etched. Those are one of my many Christmas things that I do. And like I said, I'm putting a video together to try to show you guys some of the things that I have found in the past couple of Christmases that done pretty well. So,
There's a
yeah,
question about where you get you're still using a local store, right, for your plywood?
yes, unfortunately, they're not. If you're in Alabama, you might have one near you, but if you're not, then you're not going to. But this is what I get. This is the Luan that I get, and it works. Like I said, I use it for a lot of stuff. I've got some eighth inch also that I use, and of course I got some of the stuff that you can get from Home Depot. But that stuff, I really haven't found a need for anything any harder or thicker for most of what I do. If I'm worried about the wood, typically I'm going to mill me down some quarter inch, cedar or some quarter inch oak or something like that myself, and do it that way. Ooh, these comments, man.
Trying to get caught up on some of them.
I can't read fast
Um,
enough.
yeah. Oh, yeah. When we're talking about wire, Jeff's got a great point here. You want to look for stranded wire, not solid. So I get the stranded silicone wire. That's going to give you the most flexibility. And then you just want to make sure that the gauge matches your electrical needs.
Yeah, I mean, if it's stationary, solid core would be okay. But if it's going to be moving, you better use stranded.
Yep.
I used to work when I worked on CB radios. We used a combination of both, depending on what it was. The solid core was pretty good in case you had somebody that overheated uh, their board and burnt part of the traces out. You could actually make traces with the solid wire and bend it to where you needed it to go.
Sure. Best air pump to use for diode laser assist.
Mm, that's gonna be the usual answer. It depends.
It depends. Um, well, the best one that I've seen come with a diode laser is that larger one from Atom Stack. That's been my favorite one that's come with a laser. I don't know that it has any specs on it, but generally I'm looking for something. When you're looking at those air pumps, um, a lot of them are coming out of China and other places, so they're using the liters per minute and 30 plus in that range. But then that's also going to depend on the type of tubing you've got and any other restrictions in there that's possible. But um, 90 gallons, 950 gallons per hour. Yeah, that we'd have to do the math on that to see how that one would compare.
Carefully would be my answer. Oh, wait a minute, wrong comment. My answer to this one would be very carefully.
Um, yeah, I mean you can get some contact cleaner. So there's like this. There's a CRC makes some of it. QD electronic cleaner. That can it's specifically for kind of cleaning those on there. Um, and there's the other. There's one other. It's escaping my mind right now, but
Just make sure it's
you'll
made for electronics.
yeah, make sure it's made for electronics. You can do that. You don't need a whole lot on there. Um,
Super Duty said he ordered a Devil One kit. Let me know how that works
Interesting.
out. Let me know how that works out for you. That that's a lot of modifications, in my opinion, but it might be worth it.
Well, you know, so some of these things, I know you and I've talked about this before. Some of it's just the fun of playing and making it work.
Yeah, I mean, if
Taking
you
what you
like,
got and
yeah, I was
making
gonna
it
say
work.
if you like tinkering, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah. Like I said, and I've got machines that I will tinker with, and I've actually threatened to take a couple of these machines and make me a Frankenstein out of them. But when it comes to messing with the ones that I use every day, I can't because, if one of my machines goes down, I mean, before I can get one in, I'm going to start have orders backing up and start losing money.
there you go. What thickness of solid wood do you use? Are you comfortable with diode lasers?
Quarter inch if you're in the hardwoods is about as far as you want to go. If you want to do like I do sometimes and just play and just do it because you can go up to half inch with like oak, black walnut, mahogany, some maple, depending on how hard it is. And now cherry, I will tell you this: cherry. First of all, it stinks when you burn it with a laser. And if you try to go to half-inch cherry, you're probably not going to get through it. What's
Yeah,
that right there?
this is quarter inch cherry. Now I love the way cherry engraves. It's
Yeah,
got some nice contrast. It's very smooth, but this is on a it's a 20-watt rated laser, and it barely pushed through at 350 millimeters a minute, 100% power. So yeah, um, getting through cherry is a little difficult. Um, you know, if you want to get into some of your softer woods, like poplar and basswood, I've gone up to 3/4 inch just to see if I could do it on some of the 30 plus watt diodes. You can. I don't know that I want to do it a lot. It's time
yeah.
consuming, and you do risk kind of a bit of charring. But generally, I would agree that that quarter inch, maybe a bit thicker, depending on it, is kind of my limit, because otherwise, it's just taking time, and you're risking a lot of overburn or charring on the edges. So
Now, I will say this, and I do it on a lot of my charcuterie boards. There is nothing saying that if you've got a 3/4 inch thick piece of oak that you're going to make a charcuterie board out of, or some type of breadboard or something like that. I actually like using the laser to draw, whew, draw the shape out. And then once I draw the shape out, then you can take it over to the bandsaw or the scroll saw and actually cut along that. It gives you a reference. And if you don't run a whole lot of power when you sand it, if you don't run exactly with that line just disappears. So I do that a lot because it's quicker than trying to cut it. It's just to score it. That way I can make that shape, because I can't draw freehanded. So I use the machine to draw that for me, and then I just cut it out with a saw. Ooh.
yeah, that sounds about right, Jeff. The 20 watt to 30 watt, you're going to get it in 3 to 4 passes on poplar, and yeah, you can have some good results with that. Just anything, you know, multi-layered plywood or any denser hardwood. I don't play around with it too much, and anything that now, I mean, if you've got other tools such as a CNC router that can, depending on your design, make things faster, but it's doable with the lasers. Um, It's just like if you got a really large object, real intricate that you're cutting through, it's going to be taking a while, and that's something I'm going to want to monitor very closely for any flare ups. Is all. So
Yeah, and like I said, you're going to have some possible cavitation with burns. Yeah. Because as the laser goes through there, it loses focus. So if you're doing a piece of half-inch or 3/4 inch wood, by the time you get halfway through it, the laser is so out of focus that your risk of fire in the center of that material gets really, really high. And you'll wind up with like little caves, like little cavitations of burn and char inside there. And a lot of, especially the hardwoods. Now, sycamore, oh, not sycamore, cypress and poplar, you get pretty good cuts without a whole lot of burning. But any kind of pine, especially that the tar inside that pine, when you heat that stuff up, it makes a mess, and it makes it really hard to clean up. But if that's the look you're going for, you're fine. Whew, that done made me sleepy. Long day bush hogging. Let's see here.
so Isaac, I haven't looked at the board on there, but if there is an extra, sometimes they have extra pinouts that you can assign or that are already set up to M7 or M8. Then yeah, you could just pull that into a relay that's looking for that signal to trip and set it up. But without taking a look at the board and seeing if those are available, um, it's hard to say. The only other thing would be, yeah, that's about the only way you could do it on that one.
Yeah, the board has to have that M8 or M7 pin typically. Like the Nijis and some of the other machines, they have an M7 and an M8 pin on the board.
You really need to stop that because I'm
I
going to
can't
start
help it.
yawning.
I can't help it, man. I need some caffeine or something to drink. I wonder if I got some water. I got some water over here, I think. Just did .223 cherry. Yeah, cherry has the fibers are so small and tough with cherry. It makes a really good engraving medium, and I'm gonna tell you, pecan is surprised me as well, because typically speaking, the harder the wood, the smaller the fibers. The smaller the fibers, the more detail that you're gonna be able to engrave. And I have fell in love with this pecan I've been using. It engraves so dark, it ain't even funny. Let me see if I got some water. I'm thirsty.
That's one of those woods that's not really readily available up here. That I'm a now. I've got my friend who'll sell me rough sawn black walnut at $4 a board foot all day long, but
Pecan?
I don't. Yeah, I don't see a lot of pecan up here.
Well,
Random rustling in the background.
I bet you'd love to have this 2 inch thick piece of pecan right here, wouldn't you?
Well, I tell you, next time I come down, I'll bring a couple of walnut slabs for you, and you can send me back with some exotic southern wood.
Woo! Mahogany. That's actually a piece of that's what I made my little bin, my little my little bit thing. It's actually
Mhm.
mahogany. It's mahogany. It's awesome.
Well, Mark says hickory's the same as pecan, so I'll just go grab some of that.
Yeah, they're like double first cousins. But I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, when you dry it, you better ratchet strap it. Because if you don't, you'll have yourself you'll be making a rocking chair. Hickory makes really good
I don't
runners for
know.
rocking chairs. You just put the wood out, you cut the wood and set it out in the yard, and it'll do that. And hickory too. I've got some over there. I don't know where exactly it's at. If you get a good piece of sure enough dark heart hickory, it's awesome. It looks like that vanilla chocolate ice cream because it's really dark in the center and it's really wide around the edges. I've actually got a hammer that I replaced the handle with some hickory over there. I made me a hammer handle. Oh, let's see.
So Rob's asking what cam software you use.
Do I use
Oh,
Right now, I'm just using easel for my CNC. Now I've got Fusion 360, but I haven't mastered Fusion 360 setting it up for the CNC yet. I still got to study that, and I just haven't had time to sit down and study it. So
yeah, I use VCarve Pro for my cam software.
loaded with silicone. What? Hickory's loaded with silicone. Hmm? Not sure I'm following. How does silicone get in a tree? I mean, I understand how silica could get in a tree, but how in the world does silicone get in a tree?
Yeah, it's probably what it is.
That's right. Oh.
I don't know. I don't think you can get snow at the Clack Shack.
Yeah, about every 5 years we have some.
No, see, the proper comeback to that is why would you want that?
Yeah, see, look here, guys. Uh, my hammer. This is one of my bigger hammers I use, and the handle broke. So I got me a piece of wood at my lathe, and I actually turned out myself a nice little hammer handle. So yeah, I'm cheap. What's it to you? I've had this thing since like 1993.
So, uh, back when Sears was a thing and they were the champion of craftsman tools, I'd buy the small wooden hatchets from there because they
Yeah.
had their lifetime guarantee on it. And anytime I had any sort of issue with it, I'd just take it back there and say it's broken. I need a new one.
Oh, yeah. Still using the same old stuff I get from my local Russell Do It Center, and I have no idea where the wood comes from. It has no stickers, it has no barcodes, it has nothing on it. They just when I show up, they have a pallet of it, and they take pieces off the pallet, throw it in the back of my truck. I even asked the guy that works there; he has no idea what it's called. But now I will tell you, the stuff I get is poplar
Some of
because
that black market glue on.
no, the stuff I get is poplar. And a lot of times you can see like there'll be a green streak uh, in the material, which is cool. But this is only like two outer layers and in the core. It's not like some of the other stuff, so it cuts a little better. It cuts clean, sands easy, and it works. It's cheap. It's like I think it's down to like $18 a sheet now for a 4x8 sheet. So
Nice.
at one time it got up to like 26, and I went and bought every bit of it they had before it went up any higher. But it's back down to like $18 a sheet now. I think.
I'm still missing the days when I could get 5x5 sheets of Baltic birch for about $8 a sheet.
Yeah,
Well, for the 1/8 inch stuff.
yeah, Daniel. I figured you meant silica because silicone and silica. I was thinking you meant silica, but I live on a prehistoric sandbar, so I got sand everywhere. I mean, you can't if you put lumber on the ground near my house, it's going to have sand on it, so you can't. And especially when you drag a log up on the sawmill, you have to brush them, and man, it sand wreaks havoc on my bandsaw blades from my sawmill.
Yeah, if you could find poplar plywood anywhere locally, that's a good stuff to have on hand for lasers. So,
It stains really nice too. There you go.
um, I've got some in my head. It goes back to getting the time to put everything together. I'm a little backed up on things and have run into a couple of glitches on a couple of projects recently. But yeah, I definitely want to do more with that. It's something I'm going to be bringing with me to the Minnesota Woodworkers Expo in October up at Canterbury Downs. Mid October, I'll be bringing that machine with me to be able to demonstrate that, along with at least one of my diodes as well. So I definitely am going to have some projects done beforehand, and maybe some to be able to do at that show. So, and I'll definitely be sharing as much of that on the channel and through other Instagram, Facebook posts as well. So
Are you going to be taking a fiber with you to that event, or what you taking?
yeah, I'm going to take the Comgrow, or not the Comgrow, the Com
Conroe.
Marker. Sorry, Com the Com Marker B4. I'll be taking that one up there. I've been trying to think about a good way to make a at least partial shield, so that it protects people from directly seeing it. But I got to see what I can get as far as the right plexiglass that's tinted or something. And
Yeah.
I'm going to definitely have like a screen there. I can put the webcam on it and such so people can see it, but that's not quite like being able to actually see it. So I got to find that balance between spectator safety and my liability.
Yeah, you don't want to get anybody hurt. That's for sure.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, that's one of the things that I'm looking at because I plan on starting to take fiber with me to events, but I've got to, like, just like you, I've got to come up with a little small enclosure of some type, and I think it's just going to be basically a box that I can just sit over the top of it that has a view window on one side, and then a view window on my side that can just lift, and access the machine. So
Yeah.
that's what I have envisioned anyway. We'll see if it ever comes to, if it ever happens. All right. So you got a link to your event that you're going to, by the way?
Let's see. They have a few. Let me find.
I'm gonna drop one here. This is gonna be that's the event that we're doing here in Chilton County. September the 9th, I think, is the date, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, and so if you're in the area or if you happen to be passing through that day, I am going to be taking some extra gear with me in form of a 20-watt laser. And I'm gonna make me one of those cool little things that you drop your name in and you spin the handle. You know what I'm talking about? I don't know what the technical term for that is, but I'm gonna make me a little barrel. If I can find like a miniature whiskey barrel, that would be cool. And make one of those little deals where you can drop your name in the hat, and then during the event we'll draw a name out of there, and somebody will get to walk away with a 20 watt. I don't know which one yet. It depends, uh, but it'll be a 20 watt machine. So
Wow.
if you're not too far off, it might be worth the trip. Come by and check out the Clack Shack.
All right, let's see here.
And I apologize for being so squirmy, guys, but this back's still giving me problems.
So this is their page, their web page for it. It's Woodworker Expo. They're actually better at updating their Instagram and Facebook pages for it, but um, but yeah, it's they've got the basic information there. It's up at the Canterbury Park Expo Center, Saturday, October 14th, 9 to 3 p.m. There's gonna be a lot of different things going on. A lot of exhibitors, a lot of tool makers. You know, your favorite DeWalt is going to be there. SawStop, I think, is going to have some demonstrations. Powermatic, Shaper Tools. They've got that handheld CNC thing, along with a lot of suppliers and other makers and tool swap outside and everything. So it's gotten really big this year as well. I'm kind of excited just to walk around it some and talk with some of these people. But so yeah, I'll be up there doing some demonstrations, talking about lasers through a good chunk of the day. I think I got a friend that's going to come with me and help out as well. And I don't know that
Cool.
I'll have a giveaway quite like yours, but we'll see.
Well, I figured it's going to be only one. We're only going to do have one of these a year. So I got to up my game. I figure if I do that, maybe I'll have at least, I don't know, 10 people show up. So we're gonna do that. Yeah, I could get me a little minnow trap or a crawdad trap there, but I want to make it though. That's the only thing is I want to make it if I have time. If I don't have time, it may be an old empty mayonnaise jar. One of them plastic ones with a hole cut in it.
Here's a good question.
I'll let you go first since you technically started out with a CO2 and then went to diodes.
Yeah, so uh, the nice thing about a CO2, especially if you get a one with a larger working bed, is you get some extra speed for cutting, and you might have a bigger work area in it. But there comes some hassle with it. So it really is a production machine. You got a lot of the same things, especially items that you want to cut out. Um, that there's some good benefits. And yes, I did actually get my first CO2 laser, which was my first laser, pushing almost 8 years ago, and have used it quite a bit. Um, that being said, when the diodes came out, I had looked at them, kind of thought, that's interesting. But it wasn't until the 10 watt diodes that came out that I was like, I'd actually kind of like to play with one of these because my CO2 is out in my, detached shop outside, and it gets cold and snowy in the winter. It gets warm and humid in the summer. And I don't always like to have to, let alone walk out there, but be out there in the unconditioned space. Um, and so when I was looking at diodes, I thought, hey, this would be great to have down here. I can have it in the shop. It wouldn't take up a lot of space, and it'll do 90% of what I need it to do in that kind of 16 to 19-inch working area that these diodes have. Um, because a lot of what I'm doing now is maybe one-offs for myself or one-off projects for other people. I'm not doing a lot of production like I was, 5, 6 years ago on some of my RC stuff. Um, Now, if I was still doing a lot of that, I would definitely be out in the shop constantly with my CO2. But for a lot of my projects down here and with the extensions, if you're doing more one-off stuff and it's not like production, you need to crank a bunch out. These do really well, and there's a lot less maintenance to them, a lot more simplicity, and they're easier to move around. So
Yeah, well, everybody that's been in here any length of time knows my stance on that. CO2 lasers have their place. Like I said, I have nothing against a CO2 laser, but me personally, it's kind of like looking at it from this perspective. If all you have is a push mower and you don't have a bush hog, then obviously you're not going to go out and try to get bush hogging jobs for a push mower. So as long as you stick with jobs that are within the ability of your machines, especially with diodes, they're so cheap, they're easy to operate, they don't use a whole lot of power, no special wiring required in your house or anything like that. You can stack three or four of those things in a room and turn out just as much product as you could with a $6,000 machine that requires a 220 watt or 220 volt outlet if you do it correctly. So it's I can't find. We've got a business in town that has a 60 watt CO2, and they send me work because there's stuff that they can't do with their 60 watt CO2, and so they're like, "Hey, I got you another job," and I'll do it for them and send it back to them, and then they basically pay me, add a little bit onto it for their troubles, and give it back to the customer. So each machine has its strong point. I know I got a lot of friends in my area that y'all, the sisters by choice, and a bunch of others that they run a business off of a glow forge, and they do basically like small business hobby type stuff like I do. But so COC, each machine has its strengths and weaknesses. I like the diodes because I got like an army of these guys. I can put three machines. Like on an average day out here working in the shop, I'll have my 30 watt over here running. I'll have the big machine running. I'll have the CNC running, and sometimes I'll either be making something or doing stuff with the fiber. I'm fixing to have to. Matter of fact, I'm fixing to have to make like 2,000 ink pens to take with me to that event. That's gonna be fun.
So is Brandy watching right now?
Probably she texts me,
Oh, okay.
so I'm
You definitely need a 3D printer and a CNC plasma router now.
saying. Well, I'm afraid to put a CNC plasma in this shop as small as it is and all this dust. I'm afraid I'll have like a flower explosion.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I got too much woodworking stuff in my shop to do a whole lot of dedicated metalworking.
Yeah. Now, hey, let me tell you what she did come up with. Now, let me tell you what the woman has told me. I've been saying when I retire, I want to build me a bigger shop, and I want to move all my woodworking and laser stuff into the new shop, and then keep this one for, changing oil in the lawnmower and stuff like that, which is originally what I did here before I put all these tools in the way. And so I was discussing with her, moving all my stuff to the new shop, and she's like, you know what? I could actually make that into a she shed. It could be like the she clack shack, and I could do like my bows and ribbons and stuff in there, and have places to put all my stuff. And I'm like, really, seriously?
Well,
I
and
mean,
the
that,
cameras are already there for her YouTube channel.
yeah. I'm like, seriously? She's trying to take my shop. I thought,
Well,
hey, she's finally
hey,
on board with me getting a shop, and then I
that's
find out she had
that's
a
an
hidden motive.
opportunity. That's an opportunity. You're just going to end up building a bigger one. So you've got your automotive bay on the end, the rest of your shop, and then she's happy with hers. See,
Yeah,
you just gotta.
but yeah, yeah. I haven't got to see the 3D printer though. I'm afraid if I get a 3D printer, I'm gonna have to like really build a good enclosure to keep the dust out of it. So
I mean, well, yeah. If you run it out there, you'd probably want to stick it in like one of those, like one of these Comgrow unit type things or something. But I mean, I just have mine in my. I mean, if you're just doing the FDM and doing PLA, that's relatively harmless, and I just have it kind of sitting behind my computer in my office area. So
yeah, I'm talking about as far as like the dust just getting all over it, causing stuff not to stick together.
well, that's why you run it in the house.
Oh, she's not letting me bring that in the house.
Just wait till she can. Oh, yep. She's back.
Yeah, I was wondering. It took her a minute. She she sat there quietly, or at least I thought she was being quiet. But
See, if I do that, I'd have to plan in the dark room photo gear for my wife. So
yeah, which I told her. I mean, once I get because it'll actually be kind of roomy once I got all my lasers and stuff out of here. So she'd have plenty of room, and I could still have a place to, change lawnmower oil and stuff like that. Because my plan was to leave all my mechanic tools here, because I've got jack stands, floor jacks, impact wrenches, just crazily large sockets and stuff for working on the tractor. So I just thought that would be a better fit.
Yeah. Well, here you go. You've done both sides of this. Jeff's wondering about dipping into the sales side versus freebies.
Good luck getting through the freebies. I still get them. I still get them. You have to. You're gonna have a lot of people wanting stuff, and I still do those. I've got a family member now that's want me to do a bunch of tumblers and stuff like that. I still do those because I do enjoy it. It is a hobby. I'm not trying to make money off of every job I do, but you do have to prioritize. Because I gotta pay the power bill because Brandy makes me pay the power bill for the shop and everything. So I gotta have money for the power bill. I gotta have money for supplies and stuff like that. So I have to make money. Um, you got to be careful though, because you'll get to the point where I'm at now, to where I can't really take on any more repeat customers. I still do one-offs because I enjoy people calling me going, "Hey, I want to be able to do this, or I want to be able to do that," and I like the other day I had a guy that wanted a big sign that said, "Will you marry me?" So I cut the words out on the extended machine, and he set up this elaborate like display and had it on the wall. And it's cool when you see the pictures from that proposal, and you're like, hey, all that stuff that's on the wall, I made that, and that's going to be like, they're going to have that picture from now on. You know what I mean? So that kind of stuff's cool. But like, I have realtors and people ask me all the time, "Hey, I want to talk to you about starting doing housewarming gifts." I don't have time for that. I can't take on any more customers. Matter of fact, my buddy Todd Miso has started doing what I do for my local Clayton homes. He's fixing to start doing it for one in Pelham. And if there's, one more. Speaking of which, if there's anybody near, let me find out where this was at. Uh, Milton, Florida. Anybody near Milton, Florida that would like to get a customer that you could do repeat products for, you might want to swing through Freedom Homes in Milton, Florida, and speak with the manager there and let them know what kind of, whether you can, what kind of cutting boards, whatever you can do, and you can have yourself a customer there. Because they asked if I could ship stuff to Milton, Florida, and do what I do for this store, and I can't. So if you're near Milton, Florida, there you go. You're welcome. Go sell it.
But
But
yeah,
Facebook Marketplaces, that's the startup place for startup places, in my opinion.
Facebook Marketplace and any community groups that you have that are geared towards supporting local businesses and such. But you kind of have to have your portfolio to be able to share with that. So if you have if you don't want to use your personal Facebook page, start by making some sort of business Facebook page and start even just posting some of the things you're doing. And then, if you can join those groups, is that great? Otherwise, create an Instagram page. That's a great kind of photo and video sharing platform for things like this. That kind of builds up just what you're doing, and then interact on those pages. Pick maybe some seasonal things. So one of the popular ones with CNC guys this time of year are like Halloween and Christmas lanterns. You can make them out of cedar pickets. You throw some LED lights in there. They're fairly inexpensive. You can offer them inexpensively and make some decent money on them without a whole lot of time. And then maybe on the laser side, kind of pick something similar, a few ornaments that maybe have like a local flair, and then tell them you can customize them. Just throw those out there because those tools are free. It just takes some time to build up. They got to be able to see what you can do, and they got to kind of recognize you. So being active on those pages within Facebook or on Instagram and interacting with businesses. I mean, that happened to me just this year. Uh, there's a farmers market that is or the college I work at hosts in the summer, and so they're there Monday afternoons. And there was a pork farmer that started coming there this year. I got to know him and been buying some pork products from him, and he, connected with me through social media as well because I found his page and was kind of liking his stuff and whatnot. And the last time I got some product from him, he actually reached out to me and said, "Hey, I want to talk to you about some of the stuff you do and what you can do for me, and whether I pay you for it or we do some bartering or whatnot." So, that's I wasn't actively going after him as a customer. He actually reached out to me just because, you know, seeing my stuff on social media got him thinking about what I can do for his business. So, um, you got to have the portfolio, and then you got to kind of be out there at least knocking on some doors or making people aware of you, and it'll come. But it does. Your effort will weigh on how much reward you get out of that.
Yeah, it takes a while to spit it up. Jack, I won't disagree with you on that. When you sign up for these commercial customers that order, 5 or 6 stove covers a week and 5 or 6 cutting boards a week, and you work a 40-hour job, it don't take long to run out of time. Plus, I got kids' athletics, I got a yard to maintain. I mean, it does not take long to run out of time. Now, that's why I don't take on any more commercial customers because I can't handle that kind of order load. But now I've got clients set up. A matter of fact, I just got an order for 90 little bags of stars. The burn was literally this big, and my friend May ordered them. She wanted 90 bags, and basically I just cut the stars out with numbers on them, put them in a Ziploc bag, and give them to her. And I just didn't have time to do it, so I outsourced that job to Klein, and they're in here somewhere. He brought them by earlier when he dropped off his stuff. But I'm actually using my spillover to get my buddies some work to where they can buy tools and stuff like that for their shops. But it's just whether or not it's something that they can do. Then I'll hand the jobs off to them. Uh, but yeah, but no, it's not my pricing. It's not the problem. It's the fact that I've got a business ordering 120 stove covers a year that it's hard to keep up with, and I don't have the time. Download my files, put some wood in there, and hit burn. That'd be the easiest way.
Well, I did a video last Christmas on making some personalized ornaments. So I'll drop that in there, and that'll help you hopefully walk through how to make your own. And that it's kind of just a simple ornament type thing that you can put any sort of text in there that you want. And I show you kind of how to do that and merge the two together. So just simple ornaments, and it doesn't have to be out of acrylic. It can be out of just basic basswood or eighth or quarter-inch plywood. um, you try to keep them small and quick to make, and that way your time and material investments where you can offer them pretty inexpensively. Those can kind of be a gateway drug into what you can do for people at that point. They see that you can make these smaller ornaments, then you can start working into more complex things and stuff. So simple ornaments like that just have someone's name or your local area, whether it be your area code or a community name, things like that. Those are things where I would play around with that as far as examples. The trick is where you can make the money is on the customization though. you know just having a Merry Christmas ornament that you can buy at Michael's or Hobby Lobby for $2. I'm going to send them Michael's or Hobby Lobby because by the time I cut it out and make it and sell it to you for $2, I'm losing money. But being able to customize it, that's where you can charge more for that. It's a little extra special for them.
Yeah. Actually, Victor, it's about one every 3 days. If you look at it, it's about they order one stove cover and one cutting board every 3 days. So during a period of a week, technically that's anywhere from 2 to 3 a week that I have to build in between making videos, putting lasers together, doing all my other laser jobs, and keeping up this household. So, and this week I've also had to rebuild every faucet in my house, put new seals in all my faucets, and I added a regulator and a cutoff valve under my house. And what was it, like a month ago? I had to dig up my septic tank, clean that thing out. And then today, like I said, I mowed cut the grass on about 3 acres, and bush hog probably another acre and a half, 2 acres. So, not exactly a retirement over here. Got a lot going on.
Yeah, you'd have less lawn to mow if you didn't kill all the trees.
Well, the trees are still here. You remember? You saw it. They just got to cut around them. That's what takes so long. But but if you really want to, whoever was asking about the Christmas ornaments, if you really want an easy way, I dropped the link to the Etsy shop and just go in there and type in the word Christmas, and there's some files in there that you can play with. Oh yeah, and my vehicle maintenance. I had to do a service call. This was it yesterday morning. My daughter's car broke down on the way to work. So as I come in here at 6 o'clock in the morning getting started, the phone goes off and I had to go pick her up and make sure her car got towed to a shop and all that. But yeah, my days on the weekend, I start my day at about 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'm usually in this shop until 10 to 11 o'clock every night. And then during the week, same thing. I work 8 to 4 at my day job, and then I work about 4:30 till 10:30 or 11 in the shack in the afternoons. So my problem is not having the work. My problem is not having the time. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but you know what? 2 years in a month, and I'm gonna be full time Clack Shack. Then I'm gonna get some. Then I will get some new customers. I'll have to pay for Brandy's she shed.
Yeah, afraid I'm gonna have to work longer than that.
Yeah, I know it's depressing when you think about it.
Well, especially after you have some of the weeks I have. So,
Yeah. Well, hey, if they called me today and said, "Hey, I'm sorry, we messed up on your paperwork. You could actually retire tomorrow," I would submit my paperwork. I enjoy being out here.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, Rob, that is great. I know a lot of happy retired people, and then there are some who, um, I don't know. I think the thing is keeping yourself busy, having something to do. Those who have work as their life, I think that's the one that hit them the hardest. So I keep
Yeah.
saying retirement's wasted on the elderly. We got to have like this midlife break where we don't work for a number of years and can do things while we're, you
Well,
know,
I think I'll be fine. I'll be 50. So, other than this back thing I got going on, I'm pretty healthy most days. But they tell me that if the next shot or two I get in this back doesn't fix it, that they're going to go in and manually fix it for me. So,
mm,
hopefully, we'll get this straightened out.
in
Yeah.
one way or another.
Yeah, I got to go for another one of those shots in about another week. So that means I'll get 2 days off work because I can't drive or make any life or death decisions for 2 days. So when doing what I do, they don't really want you driving around toting a gun for 2 days. So I'll have 2 days off to get caught up on some other stuff. I'll be out here working.
Yeah, I've got two guys on my team at work that keep threatening to retire about the same time you do, and I keep trying to find ways that they can't. But
Well, like I said, using the portal, I haven't got them to give me a definitive day, but it looks like it's going to be October the 1st of 2025. It's either going to be a month before that or a month after because the way I don't know exactly when their website updates. But yeah, I'll find out when it gets closer. I'll find out a confirmed date. No, Mark, I have a plan on what I'm going to do. It's called the Clack Shack. So I'm I am great with doing what I'm doing out here every single day. I'll just have to actually, instead of turning down work, it may even be to the point to where I actually go out and look for other customers. But I think I would be comfortable with the amount of work I got coming in now as long as it stays constant and doesn't taper off. Yeah, see, Brandy was telling me for years. She's like, "Yeah, go ahead and retire. I'm not going to retire. I enjoy, going to work, blah blah blah." And within the past month or two, she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm retiring with you." So, what did Chris say? Hey, Chris found his long lost extension kit. What's that? The third attempt?
Yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of people in retirement, they get busier than they were at work, so you got to be careful of that.
Da, da, da. Shots. Oh, missed. I missed Chris's comment. Okay, where does the shots go? It said shots. Sorry. Oh man, I wish there was like a search function on these comments. Okay, Chris, you're gonna have to put the whole comment back in there. I can't find the other. Kevin, you're gonna have to put the whole comment in. I can't find the rest of it. So it's already sharp. Yeah. Good luck with a shot. Oh, well, I'm going to be optimistic and hope that it works, but so far, the first one doesn't seem to have done a whole lot. So, but I'm trying. We'll see how it works out. Chris said it was his fourth extension ordered.
Four
Oh,
times. Hmm.
oh, maybe that's why I didn't see it. Brandy said it held the comment for review. She can see it because she's a moderator on my end. He must have put something that rhymed with shot and it blocked it. Okay, that's what happened. Kevin done dropped the eye on shots, and the filter got him. Uh, it didn't help. Yeah, yeah, that's what happened. He hit that I right there next to that O instead of, and the profanity filter said nope. That's why I didn't see it. Yeah, Kevin, I've heard a lot of people say that they got them and it worked. I've heard other people say they got them and it put it off, and then I've heard other people say that they got them and it did nothing. So I think I'm falling in the category of I got them and it did nothing. So
Yeah, I have a friend who had to get the shots, do chiropractic care, and it did eventually take before he had to do the surgery. But
yeah.
I've heard it both ways. That it sometimes helps, doesn't it? Sometimes doesn't.
All right. Let me throw this out there for you, Mark. There's two different ways that I go about it when I'm doing the big signs. If I'm doing like I did one, hang on, I did this for a friend. I did not sell it. Uh, let me find this thing. Uh, I, well, I may not can find it. I thought she had it on her Facebook page. But anyway, I did a sign the other day. I did a couple of them for some friends. But the way that I typically do it, if I want a backer, like let's say I want red text with a white background, I will create the text in Lightburn, and then I will use the offset tool and offset it depending on how big of a background I want. I'll offset it to 30 to 50 millimeters from there, and then I will set that as a second burn. So I wind up cutting the text out, and then you have the offset that goes out, and I'll take and set everything to a tool line except for that offset line and cut that out as my backer. But the one thing that you can do, because you're gonna have to do one cut to cut out the letters, and then the next one you're going to be cutting out the offset. But what you can do is change that cut where you cut the letters out into just a line and have it mark the location of the text, so that once you get ready to put the letters on there, you just basically line up the cutout with the line that you drew on the background. And if you do everything right, the line will be right around the edge of the text. And when you paint it or poly it or whatever you do to it, it will be not even noticeable. Another approach is that you do two of them. If it's letters that are not connected, you can take the scrap that you cut the letters out of, cut that same offset, and then you take that scrap piece, hold it over top of the base piece, and tape it with blue tape, and then you take each letter, put some glue on it, and you use that basically as a stencil for inserting the letters. But before the glue dries, you want to make sure you get the right kind of glue so that you can actually pull the scrap off of it to be able to see how the letters look. And that's the approach that I used in my video I did of Maymay's design, and I'll show you that one. But that was uh, that was kind of the same method that I use for a lot of my name signs and stuff that I do. But there's the video of me and Brandy making that sign for May May, and I used the scrap as an alignment tool for this one just because it was the easiest way I come up with for doing it. Yeah, Mark, I'm afraid I'm gonna be in that same boat. I'm afraid that I'm gonna have all that free time, and everybody's gonna be wanting me to help them with stuff. So we'll see how that works out.
Well, you just have to let them know you retired from your first career. You're working Clock Shack now, and that's your full time job.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't mind. I don't mind a lot of the stuff that I have to do, but it's we'll see. Like I said, I may find that I have more time than I realize I'm going to have.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it you kind of just have to treat it like a job. Like, hey, I've got this much time, but I've got my 9 to 5 is now Clock Shack. I can help you in the afternoon, evening, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I figure I'll probably wind up working like 4 tens out here because I can't.
Well, yeah,
Well, see, but here's the problem. Even if I came home from work and didn't have the clack shack, I would be out here working on something anyway. So I stay out here until 9, 10 o'clock most every night. So that would be hard for me to change. I mean, what am I going to do? Watch TV? I don't watch TV. I watch YouTube. I research. I study. I do watch History Channel and what's this new show we're watching? Unearthed, which is about like Roman civilization and Pompeii and Herculean and all these other places. But yeah, I don't watch a whole lot of like TV. I don't watch sports. I mean, I do this.
I I I watch I watch Star Trek to fall asleep. That's the
I can,
TV I watch. It's either that or Carla. Sometimes if she's got something she wants to watch. We'll sit down and watch that on occasion. But yeah, no, I need something that I'm not invested in. It's just kind of like background noise. It'll put me out right away. If I try to lay down, my mind's just going on stuff, and I'll stay up. But pop that on, and I'll be out in 15 minutes.
yeah. Let's see. Oh, appreciate you, Victor. Yeah, that was a. I couldn't figure out what to make her. It was kind of a kooky design, but I think she liked it. It was original. You can't buy one anywhere. So, any tricks to working on a mirror?
Ooh,
We'll
he wants
cut
to
them
cut it down
down.
first.
Ooh, good luck with that. Glass cutting is not my strong point. I take it to people for that. Uh, Now I do,
Got a big.
guys. See, this is what I watch when I'm out here working, guys. Usually, I'll have Steve playing on that uh, because when I'm out here working, I just watch Steve. He keeps me company when I'm working, and I'm not videoing.
Not sure how to take that.
Well, sometimes it's Cog Hill, sometimes it's Chestnut Hill, sometimes it's May May. It's not always you,
See,
but
I always, I my argument against the TV in the workshop is that it's distracting. All of a sudden I'll be like paying
eh,
attention to the TV, and I'm like, oh, I'm not getting my thing done. It's either that or I'm not paying attention to what's on TV. So then you're just not paying attention to me. So which one
yeah,
is it?
well, see, I mostly listen to it, and coming from somebody that's had to listen to a radio and talk to people at the same time for 20 something years, I can listen to what's going on the TV and still carry on a conversation.
Sure.
It's
Yeah.
it's one of the few things that you get proficient at. But yeah, Daniel, I'm gonna be honest with you. Up until COVID hit, I had 3 jobs that I worked. I worked full time at the PD. I worked part time. What was it, 20 hours a week at a 3-year college, and then I had some part time gigs with other agencies where I just fill in from time to time. So for the past, I don't know, 20 years, I've pretty much worked 60 to 80 hours a week. And then when COVID hit, all that work dried up, and so I was forced to stay at home, and that's when I started doing woodworking. It's like I got bored. Little known fact: doctors tried to put me on Ritalin when I was a kid. I know it's a shocker, guys. I know there's some of you are probably shocked at that, but true story.
So going back to the he's asking about how to work with it once it's cut down. Sorry, well, that wasn't the right one. There, it's gonna bounce around. Anyway, so working with the mirrors, you're really working on the backside. You're trying to etch away the backing rather than the front. Obviously, if you're trying to do it from the front, the mirrored finish could cause some issues with reflectivity back into your laser. So you want to think about your whatever you're engraving as being reversed. So when you flip it around, it's the right direction, and all you're trying to do is burn away that backing to frost the back layer of glass, and then that'll get you kind of the frosted look. Now, there's some people who will then play around with painting it to give some contrast to colors and do that as well. But the basic part of it is you're working at the back side of the glass. So you gotta mirror it, reverse it in your in Lightburn or whatever software you're using, and then it's generally low power because it's glass. You're just trying to frost it, not do too much more than that.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I will say, and this is a little pro tip here that I had to figure out the hard way: when you're doing a mirror, do not lay it on your honeycomb. My advice would be to put something, it doesn't matter what, use something to space it up about an inch away from any surface that's going to be directly below where you're engraving. Because if you do a mirror and you lay it directly on the honeycomb or a piece of metal or whatever, you're going to have some interaction on the front side of the mirror when that laser hits the honeycomb or hits the surface below it. And you're going to have some little chips and stuff on the front that's not necessarily going to look the same as the frosting. So I recommend just using some little strips of wood, whatever. Just give yourself about an inch between the part of the laser, the part of the mirror that you're engraving, and whatever is below it. Because I've actually engraved mirrors before, and they look great, except they'd have like random little chips on the front of them from where the honeycomb interacted with the bead.
Yeah, I thought I had a piece that I could show from when I was doing one like this, and I had it too close to the material, and you can actually see the inverse on the material.
Yeah,
And if it's sitting on the glass, that's going to interact with the glass. So
yeah. And whatever you do, don't lay it on wood. Because you'll burn the image. I messed up and did one time, and I just laid it on top of the material early on, and like so the customer's logo was permanently burnt in the bottom of my enclosure. Oh, wait a minute, Steve. I didn't know you got an only page, bro.
you got to dig for it.
Oh yeah. See, I'm not exaggerating. Uh, well, Steve, if you're getting away with it, then that's great. Hats off to you. But my personal experience is anything touches the front of that glass ends up causing me issues that I don't like. But now I'm highly OCD and very, very critical of my work. I will bust up a mirror and start over if it doesn't look the way I want it to look. Mm. Yeah, see, Chris said he uses spacers and butcher's paper. I don't put anything under there, but like I said, you get about an inch away from the honeycomb, an inch away from anything. That laser's so bad out of focus, it's not really doing anything at that point. All right, guys. Down to about 15 minutes. If anybody's got any questions, concerns, problems, or whatever you may have. Oh, I'm gonna have to get me a recliner or something for out here. Good Lord, that seat.
I need to, I need to find a good replacement office chair for here at home. So I've been trying to search for those, and man, you could get into analysis paralysis reading reviews of things.
Yeah, well, this chair is actually not terrible, but like right now I got this whole problem going on with
Yeah.
my back, and it hurts me when I sit. It doesn't bother me when I'm standing. It just hurts me when I sit. I either have to be I have to be standing up or laying down. That's the only two comfortable
Yeah.
positions.
Yeah. No, unfortunately, when I work from home a couple days a week, those days and the I've got a nice gaming chair that used to feel much better, but there's something about it. That, I don't know if it there's something on it that's messed up that I'm just sitting at a funky angle now. So
Mm. Viking? No, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. Oh, after engraving, there you go. There's your one.
um, I try to keep away from char. Um, so yeah, no, I mean on my engraves, I don't go for the harsh black look like you can do with borax and such. Because if I'm just getting a lot of char that's going to smear around, I just it's too much to deal with. Now on um, things like this is that leatherette stuff. It's hard to get away from like the edge charring. So I'll actually just take, a dry paper towel and rub the sides. And as far as the front, I just try to work to make sure that I get just the right amount with the layer to burn through it without getting anything more. Um, so really, I mean, I kind of jokingly say it's about the char, but I try to avoid it as much as possible. If you've got a product that does have it, like with some leathers, I've played around with just making it slightly damp to begin with to maybe help a little bit. Um, but yeah, I if I'm working with leather and it's charring up and it's staining it, I often I'm going to try to turn away from that product or that style of stuff. So
Now, real leather, I will tell you, real leather chars like nobody's business.
hmm
Uh, I use just my compressed air to blow as much of it out before I even touch the material, like to get it out of there. But uh, but then I use like a alcohol wipe or something like that, wipe it down real good, and then once it uh, once it dries, sometimes you may have to put some conditioner or something on it because alcohol will dry leather out. But you're going to get a little bit of black char if you use real cowhide, and that's what I use. I've got a box full of it up there.
yeah,
But
I've messed with that a number of times, and yeah, that's where I just if I don't need to use it, I don't. I go to a product that doesn't give me that hassle. But yeah, some people absolutely want it, and you got to work around it.
see there, yeah. Now these have been around for a while. Let's see. The thing about it is if you sweat in it or if you have to wash your hat, eventually the char is not going to be as obvious. It's going to be more of a texture change than anything. Uh, so and then it's my grass cutting hat right there. But yeah, that's actual real leather, and it stays in places. I can get it. Let's see if I can get it focused. It stays in places. But now this thing's been washed 2 or 3 times. It gets sweated in a lot because this is a wrong way. This is my grass cutting hat. It don't fit my head with my. It don't fit my head with these on. Hang on. There we go. So this is what I wear when I cut grass. Keep them ears protected from the sun. But I made that one. I don't know. Shoot, 8, 9 months ago, and I wear it all the time. So and they've been washed a few times because my hats tend to get like that salt ring around them.
So on this one, if you're using a diode, um, your chances are better. It has a fine curve, but if you're cutting out half-inch pieces, your chances are your kerf's going to be a little bit wider on one end or the other. And so you need to kind of consider that because your score marks are going to be dead on, because that's
Mm-hmm.
just going to be a real fine line. It's not going to be doing any extra burning, but you may have like a just a half a millimeter difference between your material and your score line at that point. So you might want to either do a kerf offset on your cuts to enlarge them just that much, or you could shrink your score lines in just half a millimeter or so, so that you can still line them up. And the most they'd be off is that half millimeter. But that's the problem is when you're cutting material out. If you don't take into account the kerf that's removed from the laser beam, and the thicker the material, the wider that can get, you may have a little bit of offset that you can still see. So I would either do the kerf offset for your cuts, make sure that that's going to be spot on, or I would shrink in your score lines.
Yeah, I'm gonna say you're probably gonna need to do a little testing if you're trying to use half-inch material to get it right. I don't usually use half-inch materials for doing lettering and stuff. Like I said, I stick with this quarter inch stacked on top of quarter inch. So that would definitely be a factor. You start trying to cut through half-inch material.
Um,
Oh wait a minute. No, he's saying the letters are gonna be the okay. The 5 millimeter. He's using wood for the letters, 5 millimeter, but he's putting it on a half-inch backer. So yeah, as long as you're doing that, you should be okay. But do a test. Make a little small one, do a test, and see how it lines up for you. If you need to make adjustments, do a kerf offset or use an offset tool, or whichever way is easiest for you.
yeah, I would, like I said, like you said, do a quick test. You might see if you're gonna see it. But um, Mark's having some issue with repeatability. X Tool D1. So one thing that I like to do on all my lasers, and even though the X tool wants to home in the back left, I'll still have it, instead of going back to homing it at the end of the job, have it go back to just offset of home. So in this case, I might have it move back to X 2020 or something like that, and that'll just bring it out like roughly an inch off that corner to get it out of the way, but it's going to a known position. Every time you home it, those limit switches or the inductive sensors on there, they have a chance to be slightly off from the last time you homed it, and so that's where you can get issues with repeatability. Whereas if you home it once and then say, okay, go park in this specific location, and you don't bump it, then you're going to be a little more confident that once it then moves to wherever it needs to start, 100 100, it knows just to move that, rather than 100 100 wherever it just rehomed to. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah, I do. Like I said, when I'm doing repeatable objects or items or whatever, of course, I home the machine, frame the design out, and I never homed a machine after that. I let it, like I said, I use a return to location, which is usually 10 to 20 millimeters off of a back corner somewhere, so that I stay away from the limit switches, and I get really really good accuracy consistently with any machine, whether it has limit switches or not. That's what using that approach. Limit switches aren't as important as they are if you don't use that approach, because if you don't use that approach, then limit switches are really kind of necessary.
So Scott, this is leatherette. It's actually specifically made for cutting with leather with lasers. So no, they're not toxic, and they're safe to cut. And they actually have, I don't really have any, but they'll have different layers underneath. So you can get a black layer, you can get a white, you can sometimes get gold or silver as well. So it gives you some options, and they're very thin, and you can get this both in just regular or with an adhesive back. So these make it fairly easy um, to work with, and it is safe. But if you're not using this stuff specifically, you do want to be careful with various leathers, especially the type of tanning they did, or any sort of like um, vinyl type properties they may have inside of them. So but this stuff, if you search for leatherette, this stuff is safe to use in the laser.
Yeah, I'll tell you another thing that a lot of people don't know too is that if you get you some like 420 grit sandpaper, if you're having problems with contrast based on the color of the material, you can actually sand these patches just slightly when you get through making them. I usually use anywhere from 220 to 400 grit sandpaper, and you can add contrast to the leather that way because you'll basically it's better to get material that is too dark in my opinion than it is to get material that's too light because I can always sand down the darker material and make it lighter, uh, but in order to make the lighter material darker then you have to actually get some tannin solution and stain or whatever to do that. But I sand a lot of mine just to it gives them that rustic look too, makes them look a little more worn. I don't do any offset, and the pieces cover my placement guide completely. Oh, I guess he did a test while we were sitting here.
So Rob, that is a setting you can change in GRBL. You can set both the rapid home speed and then the precise home speed. So if you watched my longer video, longer B1, I noticed that if you hit home, you might as well go grab some lunch and come back. So I had to bump that up. You have to go and get the exact command, but there is a setting for both of those to speed that up.
Mm, yeah, Mark. He's saying he has to move it for focus. I don't like typically when I'm doing that. If I'm not framing or anything, it's going to be the same item over and over. So I don't usually run into that problem. Okay, all right. Looks like we're all caught up, and it's almost time, guys. We're at like a minute or hour and 56 minutes, and
Yeah.
I hadn't even got to use none of my sound effects. Well, Brian, he let me down tonight. I finally got my sound effects back. I didn't have them last week because I was out of town. I finally got them back, and Brian didn't even give me a reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of these days I'll get my stuff set up and then we can have dueling sound effects, and that should make everybody run away.
Nah,
Scream.
nah. Well, I mean, I only got a couple. I mean, hey. That's like my anthem. If I was a WWE wrestler, that would be my intro.
Right.
But but yeah, but I enjoyed it. Glad glad we could help some folks. If you research this, yeah, G code's a big rabbit hole. But he said hit one. Say I hit one, and then I got Steve's.
Oh, that pain's gonna start up pretty soon.
Ah yeah, but yeah, Jeff or who I think it was Jeff said he's gonna try to sand them. If you mess up on one, especially, experiment with some really fine sandpaper. I'm telling you, it adds some really cool looks to it, especially if you want it to look aged. I have a cattle farmer, a guy that has a cattle farm, and he ordered like 10 or 12 from me, and I sanded them and everything. And that was one of the reasons he chose my leather patches was because they didn't look like they were fresh off the, it looked like it'd been, worn on the farm for a while. They like that look. So. North Alabama, if you will go look at any of my videos on using my jig kit, the setup is the same. Basically, you need to set it to return to a specific position. You can change some of your, like Steve said and somebody else mentioned, you can change some of your homing speeds to get it a little bit more accurate by slowing it down on the final approach and stuff like that. But that would require tweaking with the controller. And as always, if you're going to do that, make sure you back it up before you start messing with it. In case you mess up, you can just restore it. But I guess we could get Steve to try to do a show enough deep dive into the D1 to track perfectly.
I, well, yeah, I mean the problem is I don't know that X tool allows you to change some of those settings as far as
Oh, that's
the
true with the D1.
yeah.
I
Um,
forgot.
so the other thing that you can do with the D1 is instead of using the limit switches, you can set up a physical jig that's hard. It's fixed to your laser in such a way so that you put it in that corner, and then you start up the machine, and that is 00, and it's always physically in that same location. So that if you needed to reset that, you just power cycle to turn it off, move it back in there, and whatnot, and that's its starting point. It's a little kludgy, um, but it's one way to make it work. Um, but yeah, the biggest, that's the thing is the D1 is it's a nice machine, but it is easy to bump it. It doesn't have a lot of tension. It moves pretty smoothly. So yeah, any adjustments you make to focus and whatnot can bump your belts just a little bit. So
You.
and
Oh,
Jeff, yeah, that's a good reason to go aftermarket and go to that double one because then you've got that ability to do the tweaking and such.
yeah. One of these days, I'm gonna I don't know, take another controller and see if I can't crossbreed some machines. But right now, I can't do it because I don't have any machines that are broken. Well, I got one that's broke.
So if you're having problems with the same job, just even on multiple passes being off, that's probably a belt tension or some other geometry thing. If it's like in the same layer, if you have like three passes and it's getting off, that's definitely something to look at. If you either have binding or too loose of your belt, it usually means that something is not set up right there. It's where if you have it homing and then coming back and it's off, that would be more of your limit switches or the home situation.
Yeah, yeah. It's either going to be the belts or the timing linkage that connects the two sides. Yeah, Gray, I've got one, and I'm going to go get on it here in just a few minutes. it's just not. It's not helping me. Well, Jeff, since you asked, the Acer L2 that I got, uh, it started having some issues, and it finally just became inoperable. I emailed Acer about it. Of course, they wanted me to send them a video, which I don't know what that was supposed to do because you can sit there and watch the machine just doing this and not moving. I don't know what the purpose of the video was, but I guess that's their go-to for their tech support people. And so I tried on my own to figure out what the problem was and correct it. I got new controller settings from uh, Steve over Steve Makes Everything, and tried, maybe thinking maybe I got in there messing around with the controller and messed something up, and maybe my backup was messed up. So I decided, you know what, I'll just email them and see what they're gonna do. Well, they wanted to send me the V30 or the 35 watt or whatever and replace this one, but I'm gonna be honest with you, I love the old school Acers. Not a fan of the new ones. They shrunk my work area, and that's like a cardinal sin to me to shrink the work area of a machine. Why would you do it? I can understand going bigger, but why shrink it? Yeah, it's not. I wouldn't know that it's. I think it's a voltage issue, but I've tested the voltage from the power supply and everything. But it's like the steppers just can't quite, like it's just like they're having seizures. They can't quite make it all the way around, so they just kind of sit there and do this. But I'm not going to keep spending time trying to fix the thing. It's just going to hang there until they either decide they want to fix it for me, or I get bored and decide I want to take an Atom Stack controller and see if it'll work on the Acer. Because I've thought about that, but we'll see. But it started off, Brian. The Z-axis was the problem. The Z-axis wouldn't move, and then it's just now the whole machine does it. So setting. What do you mean by settings for my Acer 20 watt? What settings are you needing? Yeah, Gillette. And that was my argument with Acer was the upgrades. One, I don't know that the Z axis is that important to me. Like I said, I use these machines to make money. And so that wasn't really I do like the automatic air assist, but I could have done without the Z axis. Uh, but they did send me the V35, uh, and I'm gonna put extensions on it and use it in this enclosure. But I'm just not a fan of it. I think they went the wrong way with the L2 personally. And I like Acer. I like the company. I like the machines. I've had good luck with them. But I just that would be like if Ford suddenly started making the F-150 the size of a Ranger. I wouldn't buy another F-150. I'd switch to Chevrolet. But anyway, it just doesn't make sense to me. All right, we're over our time, guys. We're over our time. But after having a debate, because he's like, "Oh, this machine will do exactly what the V35 will do," and I'm like, "Okay, so can I take one of my stove covers and set it down inside the L2 because these stove covers are 22 and a half inches from top to bottom?" And he's like, "Oh no, that won't fit." Okay, so
Yeah, yeah. They changed some things up with that, and then still don't have the extended rails for theirs, even though the brand that looks awful lot like theirs does.
yeah, I just like I said, it's kind of like what we were saying earlier, Steve. Is the V35 or the P20? There's very few things that can go wrong with that machine. I mean, you've got steppers, you've got some cabling, you've got a controller. That's pretty much it, and it's not really that complicated. So, to me, simplicity is winning due to the size of the work area. Now, I will say this thing over here is massive. I just don't know if I like it as much as I like my other ones. But anyway, don't get me started on them calling the new E version of Mustang. Yeah, I agree, Gray. Oh,
All right. Well, you were
I've heard.
needing to get on your inversion table, and it's
I
getting
feel
late.
like
But
that makes me feel old, Steve.
I mean, call it as I see it, I guess. But thanks everyone for coming out again tonight and hanging out, asking your questions, and seeing what we're up to. Um, Barring Clack being completely incapacitated next week, we'll be back again next Sunday at 7 p.m. Central, and hope to see you all here. Meantime, hopefully we'll get some videos out this week on a few new things and a few new projects and such.
Well,
And hope y'all
I,
enjoy it.
I do know, and y'all can mark it on your calendar. I can't give you any details, but I do know that I do have a brand new uh, video that's going to come out on the 9th of a brand new machine that's pretty cool. You might want to catch that, so add it to your calendar. I think Steve's going to have one too. So,
And
but
there's a rumor of an interesting camera coming out too. So
yeah, yeah, should be that. But good night, guys. Till next time, be safe and have a good night.
we'll see y'all.
Later. ET, by the way, the Acer pretty much runs the way it runs out of the box. I didn't really change anything major on that. But see y'all guys.